Hello, and welcome to the channel. In today's video, we have a shocking but well-deserved update that's been buzzing around the media. A key figure within the right-wing political circles, a self-proclaimed neo-Nazi, and one of Donald Trump's controversial allies, Nick Fuentes, has finally faced the consequences of his actions. If you're not already familiar with him, well, you're in for a wild story. Fuentes, a well-known extremist figure, was recently arrested for some truly disturbing and violent behavior, and it seems like justice is finally catching up with him. We'll take a deep dive into who Nick Fuentes is, what led to his arrest, and how the mainstream political establishment, particularly figures like Donald Trump and Marjorie Taylor Greene, have embraced this individual and allowed him to rise in notoriety. It's a tangled mess, but let's break it down together. You won't want to miss this one, so make sure you stick around until the end. Remember, if you want more updates on stories like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button and help us reach our goal of 5,000 subscribers. Let's get started. Who is Nick Fuentes? A neo-Nazi influencer with dangerous beliefs. Before diving into the arrest, we first need to understand who Nick Fuentes is and why his name has been so closely linked to the far-right extremist movement. Fuentes is not your average political commentator. In fact, calling him a commentator doesn't even scratch the surface of his extremist views. Fuentes is known for his white nationalist ideologies, his admiration for Adolf Hitler, and his unapologetic Holocaust denial. He's built a platform among a base of supporters who share these dangerous and divisive views. Fuentes, who rose to prominence through his online show of America First, has made it clear that he believes America should be a white-majority country, and his comments about minorities, women, and various marginalized groups reflect this. He has repeatedly called for a total Aryan victory and has referred to himself as a proud incel. For those who may not be familiar with the term, incels, involuntary celibates, are individuals, typically men, who harbor extreme resentment toward women, believing that they are somehow entitled to female attention but are unable to obtain it. What makes Fuentes even more dangerous is his influence. He has built a significant following, particularly among young men who are vulnerable to his radical and hateful rhetoric. He's been a fixture at right-wing events and conferences, and his ties to major Republican figures only seem to grow stronger. But we'll talk more about that later. The shocking incident. Fuentes attacks woman and gets arrested. Fast forward to November 27, 2023. Fuentes, who has often pushed the boundaries of acceptable discourse, found himself at the center of a violent incident. According to reports, Fuentes allegedly assaulted 57-year-old activist Marlo Rose, throwing her down a flight of stairs and pepper spraying her. Yes, you heard that right, an alleged physical assault involving a pepper spray attack. To make matters worse, after the assault, Fuentes reportedly stomped on her phone, likely in an attempt to prevent her from documenting the event. Now, Marlo Rose wasn't some random person picking a fight with Fuentes. She is an activist who had visited Fuentes' Illinois residence to confront him about his controversial statements, particularly his harmful comments about women and his support for anti-abortion rhetoric. Fuentes has been a vocal critic of abortion rights, and in 2023, he tweeted a highly provocative statement, "Your body, my choice forever," which ignited fury from many, particularly women's rights activists. Rose and other critics have pointed out that Fuentes' inflammatory rhetoric was not only reckless, but dangerously escalated into real-world violence. Fuentes' inability to handle the heat when it was directed at him highlights a disturbing pattern of behavior where he often resorts to violence or threats to silence those who challenge him. After the incident, the backlash was swift. People took to social media to call out Fuentes for his actions, and online sleuths uncovered his personal information. Fuentes quickly became a target for those who felt his hateful ideologies were being normalized by influential political figures. It wasn't long before law enforcement caught wind of the assault, and Fuentes was arrested on November 27th. He was booked on charges of battery, and he is set to appear in court on December 19, 2023. This arrest is a moment of justice for Marlo Rose, who, along with her husband, has confirmed that a civil lawsuit will follow. In the aftermath of this incident, Fuentes now faces not only legal repercussions, but also significant damage to his already controversial reputation. The connection to Donald Trump and other prominent Republicans. This arrest is especially significant because of Fuentes' ties to Donald Trump and the broader right-wing establishment. In 2022, Fuentes was invited to Mar-a-Lago, Trump's private estate, to have dinner with none other than Trump himself. Alongside Fuentes was the infamous Kanye West, who also made headlines that year for his extreme views. The meeting at Mar-a-Lago sparked outrage across the political spectrum, but especially within the Jewish community and among civil rights organizations, who condemned Trump for associating with someone who openly espouses Holocaust denial and other hate-filled beliefs. In the wake of the dinner, Fuentes continued to gain traction among right-wing circles, using his platform to promote dangerous ideas that mirror the white nationalist agenda. But it didn't stop there. In February 2022, Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, a close ally of Trump, spoke at a conference hosted by Fuentes. While she later attempted to distance herself from Fuentes, the damage had already been done. Greene's appearance at this event and her association with Fuentes raised alarm bells about the direction the Republican Party was heading, with figures like Greene, Trump, and others seemingly giving a platform to extremists and radicals. Fuentes' rhetoric has become increasingly unhinged, and his comments about women, race, and sexual orientation have pushed the limits of acceptability within political discourse. For instance, he's made controversial statements about gender and sexuality, claiming that seeking sex makes one gay, and frequently bashed women and LGBTQ+ individuals in his broadcasts. His views about race are rooted in the idea of a racially pure America, which echoes the most disturbing aspects of Nazi ideology. As Fuentes has grown in notoriety, so has the scrutiny of his connections to prominent figures within the Republican Party. These connections, especially with figures like Trump and Greene, have raised serious questions about the party's stance on extremism and hate speech. While some Republicans have denounced Fuentes, the fact remains that his rise to prominence has been aided by the same political figures who now claim to distance themselves from him. The broader implications for American politics. Nick Fuentes' arrest is not just a personal reckoning for a deeply troubled individual. It's a wake-up call for American politics. Fuentes represents the worst of what happens when extremism is normalized within mainstream political discourse. His rhetoric, his views, and his violent behavior are all symptoms of a broader problem: the rise of far-right extremism and the mainstreaming of hate in American politics. The fact that Fuentes was ever allowed to gain such a large following, and that key political figures like Trump and Greene welcomed him into their fold, speaks to a dangerous trend within the Republican Party. By embracing extremists and enabling their rise to prominence, these leaders have done a disservice to the American public, creating an environment where hate speech and violence are tolerated, if not outright encouraged. In conclusion, the arrest of Nick Fuentes is a long overdue consequence for someone who has spent years spreading hate, encouraging violence, and poisoning public discourse. His association with Donald Trump and other Republican figures is a troubling reminder of how far the GOP has drifted toward extremism and how the party's embrace of figures like Fuentes has enabled his dangerous ideology to spread unchecked. As Fuentes faces legal consequences, the broader implications for American politics cannot be ignored. The normalization of hate speech, violence, and extremism is something we must confront head-on if we want to ensure a safer, more just future for all Americans. So, as this saga unfolds, let's keep our eyes on the bigger picture. Nick Fuentes may have crossed a line, but the question remains: will the GOP take a hard look at the monsters they've helped create, or will they continue to enable them? Time will tell, but for now, let's take this small victory and remind ourselves that justice can still prevail, no matter how long it takes. Thank you for watching. If you found this video informative, don't forget to hit that like button, share it with your friends, and of course, subscribe to the channel. We'll be back soon with more important updates. Stay safe, stay informed, and we'll see you next time.